What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Card CEO, the official collectibles podcast of Just Baseball.
Did he get another one? Oh, Gallo's on his way back. He got it! Santa Maria! Lindor again!
There it is! He did it! A 40-70 season, and a season unlike any other in Major League Baseball history for Ronald Acuna Jr.
There's a drive to right, off the bat of Evan Carter, and what a postseason he is having.
He hits this one hard. He hits it a mile to left. Mike Trout has ripped a home run.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Trout, and you're listening to Sports Card CEO with Kern, Bubba, and Ham.
Ham, Bubba in the house for this week's episode. Bubba, what's happening, baby?
What's up, dude? Another beautiful day here in Georgia. Beautiful weather this week. I'm
Spring
excited.
has sprung. Can you feel the Masters in the air?
I can, man. It's right down the road, and I can feel it, and I can also tell that my car that used to be black is now yellow. So we're officially at that season here in Georgia.
It is pollen season in the South, my friends. Well, Bubba, I have a fresh shave, and no more winter foliage here. I'm looking like a baby face, and I am ready for springtime. I'm down about 10 or 12 pounds. I'm feeling good, and it's time to rock and roll, man. Spring training is almost over. We have opening day like in 48 hours or less. And so baseball has arrived, my friend.
It has, man. I'm ready. I am so ready. It has arrived in our household here the last couple of weeks, as I've told y'all. And this weekend just reminded me of the grind that we're about to be in. And I guess we'll just go into the week, what's been going on my week, because man, this last weekend, we were like, oh, this is wonderful. We've got 3 boys that are playing travel baseball, but it's only this weekend going to be our older son. So it's going to be like a walk in the park. Well, that walk in the park turned into Friday afternoon games at 6 and 8 p.m. 8 miles on the other side of town from our house, okay, which is, 88 miles. Give me a break. It's an hour and a half. Not in Georgia. Not in Atlanta. 88 miles on the other side. This isn't 88 miles in the right direction. This is 88 miles through Atlanta to the north side of town to Lake Point. Real nice complex, beautiful complex, turf fields, beautiful, but you've got to pay for it to get there. And so I just took my 2 sons out of school, my 2 older sons. We made a day of it just so we could get through there. But there were people on our team almost touching 3 hours to get there from our hometown to go 88 miles. Traffic was horrific. So that walk in the park on weekend did not turn out to be that. We made that haul 3 different times up, 3 different times back. And so, yeah, pretty exhausting.
It's like the Oregon Trail. It's like the wagging.
It was a trail of tears for sure. When we had 4 kids in the car, Chris Farley came out to me a couple times. I was about to turn this bus around. So
Yeah.
it was but it was good, man. Getting my older son his first tournament, kind of getting the jitters out for him, whenever they step on the field for the first time, kind of like spring training for them. I mean, you haven't seen a real game in months, but just the excitement of it, getting back into the game. And now for us to have baseball on again, the WBC kind of got us, our juices flowing again, right, and getting everything ready. And so I know we're ready over here to see the Braves get starting. And we'll talk about the Braves for just a second, because that has to do with some of my week. Something that the world right now does not want to see the Atlanta Braves do well. Did you see yesterday that another pitcher went down, Spencer Strider? This is literally five starting pitchers the Atlanta Braves have lost since, back at the beginning of spring. I mean,
Strider's out again?
Yeah, oblique strain. I mean, he won't be out long, but I mean, they're going to test this this minor league system. And Didier Fuentes, man, I mean, I don't know if anybody's been watching what he's been doing, but a .66 ERA in the spring. Kid struggled last year coming up. He is on fire. So, but yeah, that's what's going on in my world. Definitely geared up for baseball, continuing the health journey, staying on that track. Feeling better. Got through that kind of sickness that I had. That kind of derailed me for a second, but staying on the health journey, committed to that journey. My wife's actually doing it along with me. She's like a spry chicken over here. She's like her high school self again. So we're feeling good. Life is good. So yeah, excited about warmer weather. We got the beach coming up here for us in 2 weeks, spring break. So excited to see a beach. I know you live right there by the beach, so you get to see that regularly. But for us up here, we don't. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Yeah, I actually on regular occasion, most days, I'll try to find an excuse to drive down to the beach, even to use that post office or whatever, just to see the water because
Yeah.
it's refreshing. Yeah, so not baseball, but travel basketball has started in the Ham house, and Matthew's playing high school baseball, JV ball. So we've got like 2 or 3 JV baseball games during the week, and then we have 3 boys playing travel basketball every weekend, pretty much now through May. And my wife and I had this moment this weekend. We're like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" You know what I mean? And the thing for me, Bubba, is I've noticed how like I am a recovering youth sports addict, right? Like I'm okay enough to admit that now. Like I had put so much energy and passion. I'm naturally passionate. I'm into anything I'm in, and I'm not into anything I'm not into. Like I'm on or off, all or nothing. And when it
Yep.
came to my kids' sports, I was like, "Oh my gosh." And it wasn't about like my kid's got to win or he's got to do well. It was just like the energy around it. And I was so like intense about it. And a few years ago, I just had to say, man, I have to let all this go. And now I kind of come up and I look around and I see a lot of folks that maybe aren't in the same mental space that I'm in. And I'm watching some of these folks react on the sidelines. And I'm like, dude, like, it's going to be okay. Like, you know what I mean? I can promise you, like, this little fake ring that they give the kid is not going to make or break the rest of their life. Like, the question is are we developing good adults? And
Yep.
I just don't know that so often this environment of high competition is developing good adults. It's basically just teaching them to win at all costs. And by the way, since you're ranked on point differential, beat the ever loving crap out of the other team too, while you're at it. So anyway, I'm not going to rant on travel sports, but I'm having a moment in my own mind and head about, kind of the future of our kids and where we want to go with them and what kind of environments we want to put them in. So that's something my wife and I have been really praying about a lot lately and just, giving a lot of thought to. On the card front, man, we're kind of coming off of like what I would call the Dallas lull. We had such a big time in Dallas, and then the weekend after was so huge that last week was just like recovery week. But we always talk about this like card fatigue is a real thing. When you go hard for a short period of time, you go, oh gosh, okay, I need a break. I need a breather. So no big acquisitions, just kind of watching the market as we turn. We're just going to get an update on here in a second. But before we kick off and dive into, the episode today and talk a little bit about the market, spring training or whatever, you had sent me something over the weekend just about anxiety. And you and I had a great conversation about this, yesterday. And we were like, dude, this should be recorded. And so, not to go back to the well, but I think it would be something helpful, for our listeners. I think I'd appreciate, a little insight into the convo that we had. But share that and let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so before we get there, I do want to touch on what you commented about just your headspace in general with travel sports. A lot of y'all have kids, a lot of y'all are in cards. I mean, card space is competitive, right? I mean, the reality is it's in its own way, it's kind of like a travel baseball of sports cards in a way. I mean, it is a competitive environment. Everybody's got a Instagram or this and they're trying to flash cards and all this stuff. And you can fall in the same trap in the card space because you can kind of get addicted to that front. But I mean, like, Ham, you are my brother from another mother because I'm in the same way. I'm either all in or I'm all out. I mean, that's just my personality. And with sports, since my boys have been young, we have been all in. And, really what I've had to learn, and I think I got a couple things right, and this is for parents having kids come up, and I think I've gotten a couple things wrong. And I think what I got right was I use travel sports for my kids, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, it doesn't matter, that is their work ethic. We are going to work to achieve to a goal. Tell me what your goals are, kids. What are the goals? Well, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And we work. I mean, we work. Because when I was a kid, my parents ingrained into me a long time ago about work ethic. And I had responsibilities as a kid. I mean, my mom and dad, I was cutting the grass at a young age. I was picking up sticks. We always had work in our household. And honestly, for my kids, they live a little different life. We're on the go all the time. They're not out there doing the same type of responsibilities that I used to do and a lot of our other generations did. And so sports has kind of become this work ethic thing for them. But I think there's another part of this. And it's teaching them how to deal with failure. And that's when sports, you are going, especially baseball, it is a sport of failure. If you're in the Hall of Fame, you're getting, let's just call it 300 is the average. You're failing 7 out of 10 times on at bats. And for kids to understand that that even if you're batting 500 is a tremendous batting average in travel sports at a competitive travel sports level, you're still failing 1 out of 2 times. Even if you're one of the best players in the country, you're failing 1 out of 2 times. And kids struggle with that. And I think with my kids, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not talking to them about that sooner, that I pushed them so hard early on that it created this chip on their own shoulder mentally of can't fail. I can't make a mistake. I got to do this with my foot. I got to do this with my hands, and just over coaching that a bit. The work ethic part I love. Now we focus on as much as anything. Yeah, the swing's a big part of the game and throwing's a big part of the game, obviously. But the mental side is what we talk about every car ride. The mental side is what we talk about every day. And so on that front, my oldest son, and we'll go into anxiety now. My oldest son has done this thing for the last year and a half. He's always been a good baseball player growing up. And about a year and a half ago, I just noticed he started to lose confidence. He wasn't the same bubbly kid that every at bat we used to when he was young. I mean, he had swag, right? And all of a sudden that swag was replaced with like tentativeness. And I'm like, what's happened to him? And I was trying to figure it out. I tried everything. What's going on? And then I realized this last weekend, even his first tournament, we've worked so hard since December to be ready. I mean, we put in a ton of work. We've hit every single day. And he got in the box his first at bat. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're ready to go. He gets in there. He's ready to go. First pitch. He doesn't load. And for any of y'all that know the baseball swing, you're standing here. You've got to have either some sort of hip load, leg load, hand load, something to get you prepared to be able to hit this pitch. We work on that every single day. He literally is standing there, see ball, hit ball, just go straight to the ball, right? He hits the ball, but there's nothing on it, right? Because there's no energy transferred back to the backside. And it's almost like he's blacking out, right? And so I'm sitting here and I'm talking to actually Howie McCann, is Brian McCann's dad. My sons go to him occasionally he's on the north side of town. He's a long way away from us. But Howie is the best mental coach I've ever been around with kids. I mean, he's phenomenal. And I got to asking him, I'm like, Howie, like with Jack standing there, I said, what do you think's going on here? Like, I mean, we practice every single day. He gets in there. He said, mentally, what Jack is trying to do is just make contact. He doesn't want to fail, right? In his mind, it's not, hey, let's go do damage and crush this ball to the outside, to defense. I just don't want to fail, right? In his mind, failure is missing a ball or missing a pitch. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with people in general and how that ties into anxiety. And so it happened to be on Sunday. We get back and from the game and his team ended up going 2-1, but he just didn't have the weekend that he had wanted. Put all this work into since December, and he's kind of dejected about his swing. And Dad, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden in life, I've started to realize this. And I think a lot of y'all will, if you kind of open our minds and our hearts and our eyes to this, things happen for a reason. And I click onto Instagram. I hadn't been on it all weekend, been busy. And this article pops up and it says, Harvard found one question that stops panic in 90 seconds. Navy SEALs use it. 2016, Harvard researchers asked 400 people in anxiety spirals one question. This one question stopped 83% of panic loops in under 90 seconds. And here was this question. What do I know for certain right now? So when we think about that, okay, and we think about like, what do I know for certain right now? Well, you don't know for certain that you're going to get out. You don't know for certain any of those things. So what do you know for certain? Well, in Jack's case, and that's what I told him, and I told all my boys this, you've done the work. You are prepared, right? And you know that you have done everything you could do to go in this play, into this at bat. You know that no matter what happens in this at bat, Jesus Christ is still your savior, and like you know that your mom and dad are still going to love you after this game, like you're going to go home and you're going to be okay. And I just think that for so many kids and people in general, and I'm going to relay this now, anxiety back to myself. I don't know if y'all recall this, but what happened to my dad back in December, I don't even know if I talked about it on the show much, but I went through probably the worst 30-day period of my life from about mid-December to January 15th. I mean, it was so bad at one point, Ham. I sat out by my pool. I remember just feeling like debilitated. I mean, I felt like I couldn't do normal day-to-day tasks. And the sun had come out. It had been cold in Georgia and there was just a crack of sun. And I went out, laid by my pool, and I just literally just took all my clothes off pretty much other than my underwear. And I just laid there and was like, man, I got to get the sun on me. And I remember calling my wife, like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And looking back on it now, what had created all this anxiety was uncertainty. Okay. When we think about what creates anxiety, and I had a guy call me the other day, randomly out of the blue, say, hey, I'm dealing with anxiety. And I've had multiple people since I've gone through this anxiety going through it. And some of y'all are probably dealing with the same thing. But what I had to realize was this anxiety comes from us in our minds doubting something. And in my case, it was uncertainty of, is my dad going to survive? Is my dad going to live? What if tomorrow I wake up and my dad's gone? Who's my best friend? Been my best friend for my whole life. What if he's gone? How do I live my life without him? Well, then all of a sudden it spiraled to, what if I die? What happens to my kids? What happens to my family? What if I have a heart attack? And so I wanted to share this on the show because it has been a huge part of my story for this year and really getting through this. And it'll try to creep back in on us every single day whenever uncertainty happens or pressure comes. And so I wanted to share that with us. I think it's a good reset anytime you're going through that. I talk to my own kids about it when they're at the plate. What do I know for certain? And I know for certain right now that my dad is alive. I do get to talk to my dad today. I am alive. And I wake up and I've started this at routine this year. Every single day that I start my day with this, and this is a tip that and I know this is a baseball podcast, but it's also a life podcast, is that every day I wake up grateful. No matter if I woke up this morning, I didn't feel as good as I could, if I was at 40%, but I sit there and I take that moment before I get up and I do anything else. And I start with just thanks. And I start with just saying, thank you for today. Thank you for my family. Thank you for giving me another day on this earth. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the moon. Thank you for the stars. Thank you for everything that you've given me, Lord. When I start my day that way, every single day is better. So, and again, anybody that's ever going through anxiety, I have so much respect for you because I've been there. And I know a lot of y'all, I mean, if you ever feel like you need help in that regard, I'm here to help you because it's a bad place to be. And I just wanted to share that because I felt like something compelled me seeing that this Sunday and what I went through, that I needed to share that on the pod this week. And some of y'all may have tuned me out and said, man, I don't deal with anxiety. And I hope you never do. But if you do, go back to that. What do I know for certain right now? And generally, it's probably not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah. Well, Bubba, I appreciate you sharing, man, and just, to throw some thoughts in myself. It's interesting. We have these seasons of life, right? And I think we have to remember that there are seasons for a reason. And those seasons have the opportunity to develop us in greater capacities if we allow it. You know what I mean? It might be a season of anxiety. It might be a season, but it's not a permanent thing. And, personally on my end, I've had a really interesting season. I mean, I think I've shared on the pod before, I walked away from an insurance career, gosh, in 2018, so 8 years ago, and went into ministry full time and had all these ambitions and all these high desires or whatever that did not go the way I anticipated it. So at 42 years old, I had to hit reset basically with no income and no equity and no nothing. And I started back over and we started Airly Oak Insurance Group. And the last couple of years for me personally have been a grind to just make sure that my family has enough money each month to pay the bills. And we have money in the sense of equity and savings that has helped us bridge the gap. I'm talking about pure income. And I've worked really, really hard to get the income to a point. And what's funny is I told you this yesterday. Last month is the first month that the income alone, no savings, no whatever, the income took care of where we needed to be, right? And it was such a victory for me on a man's side, on an ego side. It's like, okay, I finally got back to this place where, I've provided for my family. But the thing that happened in that same moment was my health was awful. Like I literally couldn't walk at the card show with my son. And I'm sitting here going like, wow, I got what I needed and wanted over here, but over here it seemed to have cost me my health. And
Yep.
I can't even walk around my house. And so it was great perspective for me because it was like, be mindful of the things you're pursuing. Be
Yep.
mindful of the things you're chasing and be mindful of the things that you put value on because there's so much anxiety that you can build around, income or money or whatever it might be. And you might get that thing and you might realize it's not what you really wanted in the first place because of what it cost you to get there. And so that's a really thing. And one of the things for me with anxiety is anytime I've struggled with anxiety or just, kind of a spirit of heaviness or whatever, it's really been about misplaced hope. It's like I've put hope in something that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and that's what causes the stress or anxiety. And
Yep.
so if I can take ownership of that and say, man, I actually placed hope in this person, in this thing, and that's on me. Now, yes, they did, betray me or the situation didn't work out, but I put my hope and expectation in that. And it was like a misplaced hope. So back to your point, when you can kind of hit reset and reground yourself and properly place your hope, we see it in sports cards, dude. And this is a card podcast, baseball podcast. When people's life revolves around the cards and card transactions and the expectation of cards doing well, and they travel to a show with, needing to do this, or this, and it doesn't happen, you know what I mean? And they get down and they get depressed, or then they maybe spiral into an addiction, or they dive in and try to double up and gamble and they lose. They're like, it is a nasty, nasty moment. And so, we just want people to understand that, like, you're not alone in this kind of thought process or challenges. And we want to just say, hey, guys, if you need anything, if you're walking through a difficult moment, we're here to help. Not clinically, like we're not, doctors or anything like that. But at the same time, we are guys who've walked through the stresses of jobs and family and kids. And I think it's okay to break down the wall of taboo and just say, hey, it's real. And for those of you who might be in that moment, like, we see you, we hear you, it's going to be okay. It's a season that we've all walked through, and, kind of get through it together with community. So I appreciate you sharing, dude. I think it's a good thing to just remind our listeners of.
One thing I did want to share too. So have kind of become friends a little bit with Nate George's dad. Okay. The prospect, Nate George, Baltimore Orioles, been high on him for a while. Kind of met him through cards here about a month ago. And one night we just got to talking. I mean, we messaged for hours just talking, really just baseball, right? My kids are in baseball. His kids, obviously Nate George has lived baseball and kind of gotten to this point. And, he was asking about my sons and just said, yeah, one of my sons kind of deal with this, almost anxiety. We talking about a failure. How did you get Nate through that? And he said, man, Nate used to deal with the same thing when he was younger, just couldn't deal if something was going wrong. It would really eat him up. And I said, well, how did he get through it? And he said he started to realize that baseball wasn't his identity, that after baseball, he had something greater than that. And I'll share that link he sent me. Nate did a testimonial of his life and finding a relationship with God. And he shared all that. And I think it's just really good story to go back and listen. Nate talks about his story and being in the minor leagues and kind of being away and being alone and his story through. And so I'll share that next week on the pod, and we can put that in the comments or whatever down below so people have that story. But just really cool when you see that, again, that same story that, here's a guy that's excelling now and just took that pressure off himself. And so I think we can all learn from that. Taking that pressure off sometimes is what we have to do. So, and I know we're about to get into baseball things, but I owe this to Salvatore. Okay. This is something I promised Mr. Salvatore I was going to do. So I made a purchase of a red Aiden Miller a couple weeks ago and met Mr. Salvatore. He goes by Sal, and he is a teacher at Bucks County Technical High School in Pennsylvania. He is the computer systems technology class, and I'm shouting out at Bucks County Technical High School in Pennsylvania. I'm shouting out the 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade. Guys, Sal's the man. He hooked me up with an Aiden Miller red. I told him I would shout it on the show. So again, thanks, Sal, for the deal in Bucks County Technical High School.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love when we have this kind of community build and these folks all over the country that we get to connect with. And you know what I mean? Man, it's just special, and I love it. So for our listeners, thank you guys. And like I said, we took the first 20 minutes today to just share our heart, something we've walked through. For those of you that relate to that, we hope it was helpful. For those that are ready for some baseball chatter, we can go ahead and dive into that now. So that being said, Bubba, if you remember a couple of months ago on the show, we had none other than the silent assassin, Nick Tucker.
Yep.
We were talking about the baseball market, What's the baseball market going to do? And so I'm going to replay this clip. Okay. Because this clip, you put 300 grand on the line here, big boy.
Did I lose it?
Here we go. Are we ready for this clip? Let's replay this clip from the Sports Card CEO a couple months back.
100 grand down on the table right now. We're all putting 100 grand down. Okay. And the winner with the right answer gets 300 grand. Okay. So that's how serious I want y'all to take this for our listeners today. Okay. So Nick, go ahead and put your 100 grand down. Ham, put your 100 grand down. I'm putting my 100 grand down. Okay. And that's how serious I want this answer to be. In 60 days, what's Nick Tucker? We're going to come back to this, and we're going to virtually pay each other $100,000. Whoever the winner is, maybe that's a stake or whatever else. What is the number in 60 days? We're up on the year 1.449% on the year. Let's just call it that. What are we up the opening day, Mitch, as a whole for the year?
30.2.
Woo, 30.2. Big Matt's going to say 18%.
Okay. I'm going to go with 15.8.
All right. So there you have it. We went on camera to say market increase, baseball market only increase from beginning of the year to opening day. Opening day is literally the day this airs tomorrow. So Nick said 30, I said 18, and you said 15.8. So how are we feeling about that, Bubba? Let's see where the real numbers
All
are.
right. Let's see who virtually is going to win the 300 grand here. All right. Oh, right now to date, via card ladder, right now to date, we are up 10.2%. Alt was showing us almost essentially the same numbers. Obviously, we got a couple days. They got to update their information. Maybe we end up at 10.5. Maybe we end up at 11. But it's going to be somewhere in that 10 to 11% ratio. So, virtually, Mr. Ham, I need you to wire me $100,000.
No, you blew it. You went over. You overshot the target. There was no win here.
Nick Tucker owes us both. He went 30, so yeah, he owes us both 100 grand.
Nick, I think he'll own up to that for sure.
So our exuberance was a little overshot, and I think what I'm seeing is, honestly, we had this really good momentum early on in this market. I mean, January was strong, and I think that's what we were all feeling in that moment. Was January was strong, and February was kind of strong, and then all of a sudden, somewhere in the last, probably about 4 weeks ago, I felt it. Yeah, would you say that's right, Ham? 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that far ago. I would say it was more like 2 weeks ago. It felt like once the World Baseball Classic came on, everybody forgot about actual baseball, like spring training. Everything switched.
Yeah, it was this weird feel of like everybody was trying to time this market, like there was about to be this mass exodus that has happened. And now what's funny about it is I feel like it's going back the other way a little bit again. So it's like we went kind of flat, almost a dip down on some of these markets. And now you've had this little crater down here, and now it's ready to go again. And that's what's going to be really interesting is what the next 4 to 6 to 8 weeks are going to look like. And I think we need to touch on that real quick to start the show. As we're looking at the next 4 to 6 weeks, what is that going to look like? Well, I think we got to really, you can just go when you're trying to predict stuff like this, no matter the stock market, you can just go by what you've seen in the past and what you have seen take place really in the last month. My prediction on this card market is if you thought spring training this year was hyperactive in the way cards are moving, get ready for the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. If a guy comes out opening day and he hits 2 bombs, his stuff is going nuclear. If a guy comes out in the first week and he's batting 050, there's going to be an overreaction.
Yeah.
And it's what you're going to see in the next 4 weeks. And so I think really where you can navigate this is hopefully you've already stashed the guys that you believed in. We're going to have the big years. Hopefully you've kind of looked at the guys that you're saying, I've been wanting to buy more of these guys, but I didn't because their prices maybe never dropped or I never got this opportunity. 2 different things are going to happen. You're going to have opportunities where people are going to go south on some of these guys because they had a slow start, even though they may have a great finish to the year. I see that as a buying opportunity. I'm going to be looking for those as people kind of get forgotten. I'm going to be looking for those buying opportunities. And then you're going to have these other opportunities where there's going to be exuberance out there on certain performances that are not worthy of it. Yeah. And those are opportunities to sell into that. And so and the third thing is I think you're looking for is who's now, after you've watched 2, 3, 4 weeks, who's Cal Raleigh this year? Who is actually going to be able to bring these performances of, wow, we thought it's just a kind of a flash in the pan. Was Cal Raleigh going to do it all year last year? Well, he did, right? And a couple years ago, Tarek Skubal, when he kind of first started doing the beginning of the year, he hadn't done it before. All of a sudden, is this real? Oh, it was. Paul Skeens, oh, was it real? Well, it was. And then there's guys that come out beginning of seasons and they start hot and then they do nothing. And so I think you've got to be doing that evaluation on yourself at the card market. And the same thing is going to happen on Bowman and prospects. You're going to have this kind of lull going on some guys. Guys are going to get forgotten because new releases come out and these guys are flashier or all the hot, flashy stuff's going to get the attention. I'm going to be looking for the guys that are kind of underlyingly flying under the radar that I've been wanting to buy that I'm going to try to gobble up when those prices drop at all. If we get that 10% pullback, 15% pullback on some of these guys that I really love, I'm going to be looking for those opportunities. And I'll give you an example right now. Aiden Miller's market was red hot right before spring training. People, and myself included, had a ton of expectations for Aiden Miller. He hadn't played a single play yet, right? Because his back has been hurt, and naturally his market's kind of stalled out. It's not going like cratering down, but it's stalled out. And so if it starts to go that other way and drops, I'm going to be buying because nothing's changed for me with Aiden Miller. He just hasn't played. So anyway, with that being said, Ham, I want to get your opinion on that. And I know we want to talk about kind of who's next as well.
Yeah, the recency bias is a really, really big thing, and it's what have you done for me lately? And that is what drives so much of this market. And I think to stay on top of that and to be, aware of that is really, really big. But it's not just what have you done for me lately? It's what have you done for me lately, and is there hype around it? There has to be hype around it because you could have some guy that, people are kind of down on. He hits a couple home runs, and people are like, oh yeah, whatever. Like Samuel Basallo. Like Basallo hit a couple home runs early in spring training, and nothing happened. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, later in spring training, he hits a couple more, and they're like, oh, Samuel Basallo can hit, and now Basallo's market is going crazy. Like we literally had I think we had a gold PSA 9 or whatever that we put on auction because we've got a few other ones or whatever, and it was like dead flat.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, the guy doesn't have any blues. Like, this is a great, card. It seems undervalued. And yet here we are, so it's interesting. You have to kind of be strategic with the timing on guys like that. But, I wanted to, and I agree with you. I think you have to be so on top of the game. But the hard part is as soon as a guy goes and starts raking, like if a guy hits a home run, like eBay gets popped off like that. I mean, it's like, boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like the cards just go as soon as the performance happens. So you have to be ahead of the game, to have your cards. And that goes for people. And this is a little tip. If you own cards of guys that are prospects and those cards are not on eBay at a mass market as like a buy it now or whatever, you almost can't react fast enough when the hype hits to get that card out there and get it on the market. And so, I have a perfect example. We bought, a couple of boxes to rip of 25 Bowman, got in some case breaks. And one of the guys, Kate Anderson, the pitcher for the Mariners or whatever, I went ahead and I listed all of the base chrome and all the base refractors that we hit. And I threw them out there on eBay. As soon as something happens for that guy, those things get snatched up. And so the same goes with your autos and your color stuff. Have it out there at 20% over comp. And if the guy hits, you never know what happens. And if it goes a month and nothing happens, you can pull it down and relist it or whatever. That's a little side note. But that said, Bubba, I want to talk about our three guys that we've been on for a year and talk about spring training. And that's Connor, McGonigal, and Weatherholt. And then I want to talk about a couple guys in spring training that we might have missed on. Maybe we didn't miss on them overall because we own some inventory, but they had really big springs. And is it going to translate? And then we're going to kind of close the episode out here today with this, who do we feel like has the gas in the tank? Who do we feel like has the market in the prime position to have a really strong April? So going to our top three guys, Connor, McGonigal, and Weatherholt. Two of the three will make the opening day roster, or one of the three? Do we know yet?
It appears that we only know about two. I mean, McGonigal's pretty much a lock. He's gonna make the roster as well. So Connor obviously was expected. I don't think we ever expected him to, no matter what he would. Yeah, we did not expect that he was ever going to crack opening day roster. Yeah, financial reasons there, obviously. Honestly, too. I mean, Connor getting a little more time to kind of get down there and develop and see more pitching, and he's the number one prospect in baseball. The kid's 19 years old. They have no reason to rush him, right? I think if they get in there and they see, look, wow, look at this is what he's done at AAA, he will see the major leagues. I would be certain this year that he will see the major leagues. JJ Weatherholt officially yesterday did make the team. I wouldn't be surprised on that team if he's batting leadoff. He's starting second baseman. And then obviously McGonigal for the Tigers. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion that, he'll be, make the team. I don't know that they've announced it yet, but he will. He will be. He's had a great spring. So two of the three obviously made rosters. I think both of those guys, as we've talked about them before, McGonigal and JJ, I think they have to be the favorites, both in their respective divisions for AL and NL Rookie of the Years. If Connor gets a chance to come up earlier, obviously I think he'll push But those are my two favorites for the year. Nothing's really changed with those guys, other than the only thing that's really changed for me is that I continue to get higher and higher on McGonigal. That's really happened over the last year. McGonigal's the real deal, man. He can hit. I mean, the dude is a absolute ball player, and so I've actually been gobbling up myself quite a bit of McGonigal where I can because I think he's a hell of a player, and JJ is too. All three of these guys. I mean, we're lucky to have had and get to be a part of kind of this journey to see these three guys there, and I think what's next now is we're all asking that, like, who is, had that episode with Aram, like, who is next? We're going to figure that out in the next 90 to 120 days. Who's next? But I'm going to tell you right now, these three guys are going to be, in my opinion, I think these are superstars over the next 5 to 10 years.
So let's talk about these three guys, right? So Connor, first off, like we saw Connor's market just go absolutely ballistic as we said it would, right? And
Yep.
again, naysayers say what they want to say, whatever. The reality is when the number one prospect in baseball comes out in spring training, I don't care what his batting average was, and he hits home runs out of the stadium and he hits 2 in a game and he hits 4 overall, there's going to be hype around it. When he's also
Yep.
19 and 6'4" and runs like Bo Jackson, I mean, you know what I mean? You get these crazy comparisons. And when you have the Baseball America guys comparing him to a more athletic Cal Ripken, you know what I mean? Or A-Rod. It's like I heard somebody say something about, the floor is Bobby Witt and the ceiling's Derek Jeter or something crazy, like Derek Jeter with power. You're like, okay, we're in a whole different stratosphere now. But now everybody's going, oh, see, he didn't make the roster, whatever. Connor's market has softened a little bit, I would say, but you
Yep.
also too still have so much like built-in potential there because the ceiling is so high and he's still 19 years old. So
Yep.
that's kind of my stance on the Connor market. Go over to McGonigal.
Yep.
McGonigal's 21. So Connor could be where McGonigal is in a year and a half and still be, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the reality that people don't understand. McGonigal's 21 and has had a ridiculous spring, and his market has finally started to respect itself. You know what I mean? And he's starting to get the hype. And I think that guy could come out of the gate and have a couple of big games early and start off April batting in the 300s. If he continues his hot streak, and his stuff's going to just continue to go crazy.
I
And
think both of these guys are up, honestly. I think JJ and McGonigal are both going up in the first 90 days. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think they're going to double, but I think they're going to go up.
Yeah.
I don't see them declining. I think people are going to they've been hearing about them. Now they get to see them on live television. They get to see them on Sports Center.
That's the thing that a lot of people that are not in the card market don't understand. Like we are a niche, like very exclusive crew of people who follow prospects this early in the game. Most people just sitting on their couch, Detroit fans, Tigers fans, whatever, watching ESPN, they might have heard about Kevin McGonigal, but now all of a sudden, if Kevin McGonigal hits a home run and he's on Sports Center, oh, Kevin McGonigal, let's go get some of his cards or whatever. So like, we are the early adopters that are ahead of the curve. It's when these guys do debut and have these performances that then the hordes kind of come in, and that's what drives these market values. But go to JJ Weatherholt. Weatherholt's 23. So he's got 2 years almost on McGonigal and almost 4 years on Connor. Weatherholt of those three guys, his market is the softest. You know what I mean? And he hasn't had a bad spring. I don't think anything dynamic, but what are your thoughts there on kind of like his market and where it should be?
Well, obviously he had a huge reg sale, which showed that on the upper end of his cards, he's got people very interested, in the higher end stuff. I think his kind of lower end stuff has never, for whatever reason, the 499s never got the same kind of attention as some of these other guys. The blues were not getting any attention at some points early on. I'm talking like a year and a half ago. Other blues were criminally cheap. At some points they were like $300, $250, and now here he's at like $1,100 for a raw PSA 9 or whatever. So his cards have always been a little less, but then he got some momentum more on his oranges and his reds and some of that. And so I just think for JJ, I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. Cardinals fans have been looking for somebody like him. I think in general, and I think he's going to show some pop. I mean, I at a second baseman in baseball, to see him coming through, I think in general, this is the best crop of second basemen we've had ready to come. And I'll mention some other names here in a bit, but I'm very, very high on JJ Weatherholt, just as a true hitter, big time hitter, good baseball player. I think he's gonna adapt to the major leagues very well. I really do. I see him being a guy that could push 30 home runs a year, 25, 30 home run a year type guy at second base on potentially batting 1-2 in that lineup. I love JJ Weatherholt. I really do. I still do. Obviously, we want to see him go out and perform in the major leagues. That's what we're all looking for. But I still like him. I mean, all these three, I'm still very bullish on all three of them.
So those have been our 3 guys. That's the horse we rode into town on, and we still, obviously still like them. 'Cause now you look at the guys maybe who, not say misses, but guys that were not necessarily on the top of the radar who had incredible springs, okay?
Yep.
And I saw this, I'm gonna pull up the stats here. I saw this the other day. Dude, I didn't even know until somebody showed me. Dude, Matt McLain, what a spring that dude had.
Yeah, he
I
did.
mean, nuclear, dude. Dude hit 7 home runs, all right? He batted .529, had an OPS of 1.591, almost 1.6. So Matt McLain, talking about, second base talent or whatever, what a spring for him. Do you feel like he's a guy that could get hype, or do you just feel like that's just a spring resurgence?
No, I mean, I was high on Matt McLain 2 years ago, and it's funny how when someone goes through injuries and has a bad year, how quick you can fall out of favor. I mean, 2 years ago, Matt McLain, I was all over him, had a ton of them, bought and sold him, and he fell out of favor. When he had a bad season last year, and rightly so. I mean, when again in baseball card market and football card market, doesn't matter if you're not performing, your cards are gonna get crushed, and they did. And I think people have seen this spring. Man, maybe he is healthy. Maybe this is the real deal. When you go out and do what he did this spring, single-handedly the best hitter in spring training, there's reason to be excited there, I think. I mean, again, that Reds team in general, with Sal Stewart also had a great spring there. Noelvi Marte had a great spring. I think the Reds they're gonna hit, man. And I think McLain's gonna hit. So I like McLain. That's obviously one that had a huge spring. And here's kind of the list that I wrote down this morning, and Ham chip in here where you want. Wyatt Langford, absolutely
Yeah.
red hot, had a huge spring. Cole Young, okay, another forgotten guy that was talked about. And honestly, the Cole Young thing, that's when I missed. I was done with Cole Young about a year ago. I owned 3 or 4 Reds of Cole Young at one point. I honestly got out majority of my Cole Young. I still had some left. And I was just like, I don't believe in this guy. I looked at the stats. He didn't have the pop. I was like, he's never going to have the pop. He's not going to have this. Cole Young made some serious changes. They were talking about what he did physically, and the Mariners spent a lot of time with him in the offseason. That's a guy that in the last week, honestly, the research I've done on Cole Young, because I went back and looked at these spring numbers and said, what changed here? And started doing the research on him. The Mariners put a ton of time into that kid.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I'm very bullish on Cole Young. That's a guy that I think that was real. Shea Langoliers, another guy that, was an ex-Brave prospect, top prospect. Guy's always had crazy pop, showed his pop again this spring. That A's team is loaded with young talent. Don't forget about Jacob Wilson. Don't forget about Soderstrom. Don't forget about Lawrence Butler. That team is loaded with young talent, so definitely still like him. The guy I've been talking to y'all about, and I've said it all spring, the dude is for real. I'm from our local area here. Finally got a little bit of attention this spring, and that's Brady House, a guy that was absolutely forgotten. Had a huge spring. I mean, Brady House did nothing this spring but hit. So Brady's going to get an opportunity third base and to show out. Another local guy, not just choosing my local guys, it just so happens that these guys had big springs. This guy nobody wanted 6 months ago. I mean, I remember his stuff sitting on the market, and it was like it was tainted. Charlie Condon. Everybody's on Charlie Condon. And what Charlie Condon can do this year going out west in the spring, I mean, the dude could hit serious bombs out there in the minor leagues this spring. So high on Charlie Condon. Couple other guys that this group right here, and I'm going to mention 2 specifically. I'm going to mention this guy's name first because I'm not as sold on him as the other 2. But the other 2, I'm all in on. Okay. And if I could buy every card available at a decent price of these next 2, I would. And we need to add these to our list, Ham. Kobe Mayo, I think, is going to have a really good year. Kobe Mayo was a top prospect. Again, forgotten. I think he's going to have a really good year for the Orioles. He's had a great spring training. I think he has a great year. I really do. But he's not on that list of guys that I'm like, hey, we got to be buying. The 2 that I think are extremely underpriced, that I think could be superstars, and I'm one of them, is absolutely my favorite player in all of Major League Baseball as a prospect coming up. And I've bought a lot of them. I still own a lot of them. Luke Keeschel. Luke Keeschel, I saw it last year when he played the Braves. The announcers were talking about him almost being like a mini Mike Trout at that age. The dude bats if you just all he does is hit. He's like McGonagall, but he's not talked about, right? The dude rips. He batted over 300. I think he's batting like I don't remember the numbers in front of me, but maybe 350 this spring. He's got power. He's got speed. If he stays healthy, Luke Keeschel, I mean, he showed it in the majors last year when he got a cup of coffee. All he did was hit. Luke Keeschel's probably my favorite buy right now of guys that I think are going to break out. I would not be surprised if Luke Keeschel is 2 times the price he is at the end of the season, maybe more, because it's one of those years where people are kind of sitting back going, is he for real? I think he is. So Luke Keeschel. And then the other one is Chase DeLauter. Chase DeLauter hit 2 bombs last night. Again, the guy can rip. Similar story. He's a little older. He was a high-end prospect years ago, has not been able to stay healthy and prove that he was healthy. And Chase DeLauter is proving he's healthy right now, and Chase DeLauter can hit. There is no questioning whether Chase DeLauter can hit the baseball. So those are some names to note. I know we didn't talk pitchers, so I'm going to talk one pitcher. And again, I'll admit where I was wrong. I watched this kid last year and then watched the Braves bring this kid up and was asking myself, what in the hell are they doing? Why is this kid in the major leagues? He clearly didn't need to be there. He had no confidence. His stuff was good, but he just didn't have it all together to be in the pros. And the Braves sent him out there last year to get roasted. Didier Fuentes. With this Spencer Strider injury, the card market's sharp, though. I've been buying the heck out of Fuentes. They are on him. They are on Fuentes as well. There is a legit chance this kid could be a number 1, number 2 starter in the Braves for years to come. I mean, he's young. His fastball ham's almost hit high 90s now. He's added 4 miles per hour and he's still growing. I mean, Didier Fuentes could be a guy that, I mean, his prices, I think his golds and oranges are $300, $400, $500, $600. As we've seen with pitchers, I mean, if he pulls a Savage and goes out there, his card market could go 300, 400, 500% from where it sits. So that's kind of my list.
Yeah, it's I had certainly had Sal Stewart down here, Cole Young, and Wyatt Langford, and I think Wyatt Langford is a guy who could legitimately make a run at like an MVP type season. Like he's got that kind of bat, he's got that kind of speed. Like I think that his ceiling is just so high. You know, I love what you said about DeLauter and Keeschel. Like DeLauter, we even showed, like we bought a DeLauter gold at a show somewhere, I don't know, probably like mid-January, maybe early February. Nobody was really on DeLauter. And dude, I think we doubled up on it at Dallas. I mean, it was like, it was crazy. You know, that stuff happens super fast. And so if you're, if you want to win, you've got to be willing to take the risks. And not all of them hit. Not all of them hit. But think about it this way. If you have, 5 guys that you pick and one of them doubles up, 2 of them are up 20 or 30%, and then 2 of them are down 10% or down 20%, you're still in a really, really good spot. So you have to be willing to kind of take the risk and spread it across a few different guys, and then keep an eye on your timing and you'll do well. The challenge is when you kind of have this anticipation that the guy's going to be, the next, and you hold it for too long, and I say it all the time when I talk to little Matt. I said, if you pay wrong and hold long, you lose. And that's how you lose in the game. If you pay wrong and hold long, and if you're smart with it, which is hopefully what we help people do, you can do really well. And I think opening day and April could be huge. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of guys, Bubba, as we kind of close out the episode. These are guys that I feel like, could see some resurgence, like existing players, whatever. Who do you feel like are the top guys that could really come out and have a strong moment in April and see some significant uptick? Now, again, we get your Shoheis, we get your Bobby Witts or whatever. I'm kind of talking about guys that are not on that top echelon, that top tier. Who are some guys you think you could go out and scoop a couple cards up today and roll the dice on, and then come out, May 1st and, see a nice little bump?
Well, I mean, again, call this the homer in me, guys, if you want, but I think the Atlanta Braves in general last year had about as bad a season as you could have. And they have a lot of really good players on that team, and their offense just had a putrid season. And so what happened to all the cards there? They got smoked. And one of the guys that I think this guy's a future Hall of Famer, Matt Olson, has had a phenomenal spring. Matt Olson is criminally cheap for what he is. I don't know that it's a guy you're buying and you're flipping necessarily in 30 days and making money on, but I think you look at the end of the year where Matt Olson's prices were. I mean, he was almost an MVP 2 years ago. Matt Olson is criminally cheap. Criminally cheap. Austin Riley, Michael Harris, those three guys, I'm putting all three of those guys as having tremendous seasons compared to what they had last year. But the number one out of all three of those is Ronald Acuna. Ronald Acuna, in my opinion, is a top 5 baseball player in Major League Baseball, and he is not trading that way.
No,
Ronald Acuna has got the flash. He's got he's going to steal bases this year. He's been running all spring. I think he's in for a tremendous season. So I love that Braves pool of players. I honestly think all of them have been underpriced, rightly so, because they didn't perform. Acuna's injuries and the team had a bad season, but I do like the value of those players. Another guy that I feel like, and this is the kind of an offshoot of people, and then I'll get into the meat and potato guys, Brent Rooker. I think he's undervalued for a Major League Baseball player. Brent Rooker is a damn good baseball player. I mean, look at the home runs he's hit. People forget this dude's hitting over 30 home runs every year. He's got 40 home run power. I like Brent Rooker. Another forgotten person is Jordan Lawler. Jordan Lawler was a top prospect. He's going to start probably center field for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He made the team. Jordan Lawler was a top prospect not long ago. I think Jordan Lawler's in for a good season. I think he finally puts it all together. I mentioned Noel Marte. I think he's extremely underrated compared for the suspension he had on steroids. Matt Shaw. Okay, Matt Shaw was another guy. He had a great spring for the Cubs. I see him having a good season. And then Miguel Vargas, who is a forgotten guy. So those are kind of my offshoot people. If I had to go to the guys that I think are top guys, and this is Gunnar Henderson. I just feel it for Gunnar this year. Again, didn't have probably the season that he wanted to have last year. So his prices got hit a bit. I do think that Gunnar Henderson is going to come out and show that he is a superstar in this league. So I see he's probably one of the top ones of the players there. And then my other pick, and I'm putting my own foot in my mouth here, and I'm going to say it, Roman Anthony. I'm putting my foot in my mouth here, and this is how I'm putting my foot in my mouth. Everybody that sees Roman Anthony swing loves his swing. He's smooth. I mean, everybody, the glaze is on, as the kids would say, for Roman Anthony. So I'm going to say that glaze continues because people love him and they absolutely love Roman Anthony. Again, I don't think, this could be argued down the line. I don't think he's a great long-term investment. I don't think that I'm looking at Roman Anthony and going 5 years down the road and expecting that his prices are going to be dramatically higher. I don't think they will be, but I do think from a standpoint of will he have a good spring, early start? Will he have a good season? I think he will. I think that'll push his cards higher. So I'm going to add Roman Anthony to that list of people I would consider to buy. And then the last one, giving y'all 3 names. So Gunnar, Roman Anthony, and this is not like some sort of big announcement here, but I think, again, people have slept on this guy in the past, and they continue to sleep on him at times, is Junior Caminero. Junior Caminero is going to pop another 40 or 50 bombs. And when he does, is going to cement himself in that top 5 to top 10 conversation in baseball, and he does not always trade like he should for the superstar that I think he is. So that's my list of 3. Ham, what you got?
Yeah, it's so funny, man. It's interesting that we actually are in business together because, like you said, brother from another mother, I literally have 4 guys: Acuna, Gunnar, Langford, and Caminero. Those are my 4 guys. And, honestly, I could throw Roman Anthony in there easily because with, the field and right and him being a lefty in Boston, if he gets any lift on the ball, I just think, he could hit so many home runs there.
Yep.
But I think Acuna, Gunnar, Langford, and Caminero are guys who are off of the top beaten path that I think, they're not off, but they're not top 10 on these lists. I'm sitting here looking at, the top 100 players, and these guys are outside of the top 10, and I think they make a run. And I think you see a really, really strong season for them that kind of cements them. Guys who are on the fence this year for me that I would be really, really careful of or mindful of, and these are guys I feel like their price point's really high or has been historically high, and they're going to need a lot of performance, is Elly De La Cruz. Elly is going to have some kind of like really strong start. If he has another year where he's 250 with I don't even know how many home runs he hit last year, but 25 or whatever. I just don't feel like, his price is going to be sustainable, even though he's still young, even though he's a freak athlete. Look at O'Neal Cruz, look at, guys like that. I mean, I feel like he's going to have to do something this year to keep his price point where it is. Same thing with James Wood. I love his physique. I love his bat. He's got so much power. Is he going to be able to be a consistent, threat at the plate with Major League pitching as good as it's gotten? I think James Wood this year is gonna tell the tale. And then another one is Jackson Churio. Those three guys to me are guys that just jump off the page, just like they've had historically really high prices, and they're going to have to do something to kind of like really bump them. Now, I still like all three of them. I just think that those are three guys that I'm looking at going, man, they're going to need to come out strong to kind of maintain the type of hype that's been around them in the past. Whereas you think, the Camaneros, the Acuñas, the Gunners, and the Langfords, I just feel like that there's a little bit more meat on the bone from an upside perspective. So those are the guys that I like on the upside, and then those are guys that I'm kind of watching and that could pop off, maybe could fall back a little bit.
Yeah, I think. I would agree. This is a prove it year for all three of those. I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong falls in that same category.
Yeah,
Had a great start. Really, what those players are you just mentioned, they're either going to cement themselves as top 10, 15, 20 players in baseball, or they're not. I really think that's what this year is for all of those guys. Another interesting guys, I'm kind of scrolling through names here, and he made a good comeback last year, and he had a really good spring as well, is Trevor Story. Trevor Story years ago was an absolute stud coming up, and he just couldn't stay healthy, but he had a really good year last year playing for the Red Sox. He's a good buy low guy. Ketel Marte, I don't understand why Ketel Marte trades like he's a middle of the pack second baseman. I don't understand it. The dude is a superstar. I mean, maybe put him right there at the top of all second basemen right there in baseball. I don't understand why he trades so cheap. He's a guy I still like his value. Another guy that was having a breakout year last year, as I'm looking through these names, that got hurt was Kyle Stowers, and he's not extremely expensive. Kyle Stowers could be a 35, 40 home run guy down in Miami. So I think he's an interesting name to kind of watch out for this year as well. And here's a guy that I'll throw out there that no one's talking about. I still like him. He could be a 40 home runs shortstop. Okay. In a small sample, he's going to strike out a ton. He might bat 230. Okay. I'm not saying that he's going to ever be a 300 hitter. Is Colson Montgomery. In 255 at bats last year, 255. Okay. Not even half a season. He had 21 bombs. And he had 55 RBIs. You convert that to a full season, that's 45 to 50 home runs and 120 RBIs. You can't tell me that people aren't going to be excited about that if he can convert that power and that production through a whole season. So I think that's interesting. I think another guy who's proven to be a superstar, but this is going to be a huge season for him after the big contract, is going to be Kyle Tucker. Is this going to be, I think Kyle Tucker could be one of those guys that his prices have kind of caught up a little bit to what the performance is. I don't think there's no way Kyle Tucker stays where he's at. He's either going higher and a good bit higher, cementing himself as, hey, he's in the spotlight and he's a superstar, or he's going lower. And people are going to be like, man, Kyle Tucker just isn't what we thought he was. So
yeah, for sure.
That's kind of my names. And Bryce Terang, by the way. Bryce Terang, I don't know if you got to see him in the WBC. He's a beast.
There's so much talent in the league right now. And honestly, man, there's a lot of opportunity over the next 60 to 90 days for our listeners. You just have to stick with your conviction, man. And you know what? You roll the dice and sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. I mean, that's the reality. So pick 5 or 7 guys that you really like and go out and grab a card and then run it up. But anyway, we gotta cut, man, because we're hitting our time limit here, Bubba. We could talk baseball and life for days on end. But really appreciate you, man, bringing everything you do to the show. Appreciate our listeners tuning in. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up and get ready for the opening day of Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts are, I've had a lot of concern, kind of privately about where the card market was heading this year. Okay. And this morning, looking back at the last year of looking at 30% growth in baseball, 30% growth in football, and you look at that chart I sent you earlier, Ham, and the chart has been this steady rise. I do. I honestly, I've changed my tune on this a little bit in the last month. Privately, I was like, man, where's this thing going? I think baseball's got juice in it. I really do. I don't think it's going to be some crazy, we're going to look at the end of the year and we're going to go, wow, we were up 50%. I don't think, but I do think it's going to be stable. And I think and the reason I think it's going to be stable and increasing as we go, that chart's going to continue to move right and up is I think that it's going to do that because you're going to have these guys that are going to perform that are going to continue to drive the market. But I
Right.
do think, and this is a final thought, you're going to have the swings of the ones going up. But on the backside of an up market, you do have this other group of people that are going to get smoked that keep the market pulled down. And so that is this time of reallocation, keeping your eyes open. And I'm ready to see how it plays out.
Yeah, super interesting. And again, at the end of the day, if you're in this and you're an investor and you're a prospector and you kind of like to shake and rattle and roll and buy and sell and buy and sell, you got to be quick with it. If you're a collector and you're like just wanting to get your guys, just get your guys and enjoy them, and keep them on the shelf and look at them. So that's what's the beauty of the hobby is there's so many different folks. I mean, we had a kid reach out to us the other day, or his mom reached out and said, "Hey, my son's turning 10. He's been watching you guys on Instagram. He loves what you're doing with cards. His birthday's coming up. What should I get him?" And I said, "Let me put a package together for him." I put a little package together for him. I sent it off, and she's like, "I can't believe this is awesome," or whatever. And I'm like, "Man, there's nothing greater than watching this kid, open this pack for his birthday." And it's nothing crazy high end, but we put some of his favorite players in there. We put some prospects in there. Hey, keep an eye on these guys or whatever. And you're building up, the hobby. So I love it for that reason, man. And just to encourage everybody that while we're all trying to make some money and hustle in the game, like love the hobby, have fun, give back, and I think it'll go far.
Here, so you get one chance to do this, Ham. Final, since we've done this before, give the listeners here. You're putting it all there on the line. Who is your number one best buy? Number one, we've had all this conversation about all these players today. Give your number. If you had to put it on one guy, we're gonna go back and replay this later in the year. Who is your number one best buy as far as an increase in card value from now to the end of the season?
Ooh,
MLB, not
um,
prospects.
man, that's tough. It put me on the spot. I would probably say, I mean, it's hard because there's a guy out there who's probably oranges trading at 500 that'll go ballistic. You know what I mean? But I'm talking about like guys in the league that I think are going to have sustainable growth. Man, my gut tells me either Kevin McGonigal or Ronald Acuna.
I'm gonna stick with my guns from earlier, and I'm saying it again. Luke Keeschel.
Keisha.
Luke Keeschel. I think, and I'll go back on this a year from now, and I'll look back on this if I'm wrong and say, you know what, I missed it. But I think he's a superstar. I really do. And so much so that like we had our dynasty draft the other day in a fantasy baseball league, and you do it by auction. Like I lost on Luke Keeschel, and I wanted to cry. Like the guy like spent like $50 on him or something. I was pissed. Like who is this guy? So, but Luke Keeschel.
I love it. Well, Bubba, thank you, man. Friends, listeners, thanks for tuning in to the Sports Card CEO. We will be back next week to talk about opening weekend in Major League Baseball and keep you guys caught up on all things in the hobby. Peace.